E060 of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer, coming at you from Oklahoma City. And with me, as always, are the other Comic Watchers, Nicholas Osborne and Mike Eakins. Gentlemen, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. We have an awesome show this week. We're coming at you with a double shot of Marvel. We've got the entire arc review for the fantastic Web of Black Widow miniseries, which wrapped up with number 5 this week, followed with a giant-sized helping of Thor number 1, because we haven't talked about Thor enough on this show, by God. By Odin. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome time. Thank you for tuning in. But first, as ever, we've got news with Mr. Scoop Johnson.
Scoop, big news here. First, Marvel Unlimited is releasing, they're continuing their expansion through the year. A couple of the highlights is going to be Star Wars Target Vader, Punisher number 1, Invisible Woman number 1. And as someone that's been following the Invisible Woman series, if you haven't picked it up, now would be a good time. If you're subscribed to Marvel Unlimited, it's a really, really good series. And honestly, and non-biased, as I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan, you don't even really have to be into the Fantastic Four to get into Invisible Woman. It's just a really good series. And we're gonna save this last one for last, but we're gonna skip over to IDW and something really cool. George Takei's award-winning graphic novel, They Called Us Enemy, is being used in the classrooms. They're actually releasing like teacher guides to actually teach this in the classroom now, is what he is, as far as like what he and his family and other Japanese Americans went through in World War II, and going all through that, not to get into political state. We all know what went on during that time. But it's award-winning. It's just got expanded to 16 pages, so it's hardcover. It's really, really good. We have it in our house, and definitely worth the read, worth the checkout, and stuff like that. And lastly, on Marvel, just so I can pick on my favorite comic company here really quick, Empire, the one-shot, right? Earth-shattering event. One shot from Marvel coming up is the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. They're going to team up and to take on a space war fleet. Al Ewing and Dan Slott are going to be writing with Valerio Schiti to do the art. Aside from the creative team, I don't know if this is going to be something as huge. Just from the trailer that's on the website and the news that's kind of around Twitter and social media, it really feels like Marvel is just another, we're going to kind of redo something just to do something. We're going to maybe kind of retcon something. And I feel bad because, like I said, I'm a huge Fantastic Four. I'm going to buy it just on the Fantastic Four event alone. But, take for what you will. Check it out. The trailer's on the website. It does look interesting. But honestly, it just reeks of like a retcon, and we're just going to do something for shock value just to do it. So,
Mike, when does Empire number 1 ship? Isn't it April?
April, yes.
Okay, and
yes.
And forgive me, I might have misunderstood you. It event series.
I'm sorry. Can you say again, Matt? You were cutting out.
Yeah. Empire, is it a one shot or is it a miniseries?
It's a one shot.
Okay.
So this is So on the website, if you go to the website, you can check out the trailer. Like I said, Avengers, Fantastic Four. There's Skrulls in there, so they're kind of, like I said, creative team wise. I mean, you have Ewing, Slott, and Sheedy. So I mean, this is something that you check out. But I just think for me, and I don't mean no harm, but it just kind of. It's like one of those one-shot deals that we get every 3 weeks or every once a quarter.
Done that.
Right.
The end of the world again.
Exactly. You mean Captain America's not Captain America?
Must be Wednesday.
Yeah, must be Wednesday, exactly. And as always, we always got the first looks and the sneak peeks out on the website. Also, and real quick before I hand it back over to Matt as part of the news thing, I want to give a huge shout out to the comic review team, and for all our listeners and readers and everything on the website. If you like what you're reading and stuff for the reviews, make sure you click the like button, leave a comment. There's tons of social media that we're doing with regards to the website. Age of DC, Age of Marvel, Age of Indie Comics on Facebook. So kind of get involved with the social media, get involved with the website if you like what we're putting out. Even if you don't like what we're putting out, let us know that you don't like it or you like it or whatever. But it just doesn't stop at comic-watch.com. But yeah, just let us know what you think of the website. Let us know what you think of the podcast and stuff like that. And Matt, that's it for the news.
All right, so our first book we're reviewing this week is going to be all 5 issues of the from Marvel. It's written by Jody Houser and drawn by rising star Sean Mooney. The premise of this is that Black Widow, recently returned to life after being savagely killed in Secret Empire, is now trying to redress old wrongs from her pre-good guy days. The only hitch is somebody else is running around with her folks, and that makes her job a little difficult. It's spies, espionage, all that good stuff. Nick, go. What'd you think about it?
Definitely. So Black Widow 1 through 5. I've been a fan of Jody Houser for a little while now, so I was excited to see the creative team come together on this one. And after the last Black Widow series, that didn't really excite me that much. I was kind of ready to see this character do something great and become that exciting spy series that I know that she can be. So the first issue to this one kind of really sold me on it because they hit on those noir aspects, and it was very much a spy thriller with a lot of action, and the artwork was just great. Stephen Mooney really got great anatomy for these characters and all of these fight scenes because it's actually a quick read. There's not a lot of dialogue in this stuff, so there's a lot of interplay in the artwork and in the panels. And when you do characters like Black Widow, a lot of male artists get with the proportions of the characters. So it was nice to see Black Widow handled really well and consistently. But as we got towards the later issues 4 and 5, the facial expressions started to get a little wonky in the artwork. So it became noticeable to the point where I wasn't disappointed with it, but it did bring me out of the experience a little. But as far as the actual story, it's solid. There's a lot of fan service in it. So every issue has like a lot of different characters from the Marvel universe that tie into this story, and how Natasha has gotten her memories back as a clone and become Black Widow and is trying to navigate those waters. And it's really murky, how it's kind of a comics trope now to do the memory loss thing, and then how they recover them is the story. I'm glad that this wasn't that. It didn't just solely rely on her lost memories to tell the story. It used her backstory and the other characters in the Marvel universe to kind of help build something more cohesive. But it never really went anywhere with a lot of consequence. There are a lot of friends that get brought in, and it's kind of a spectacle, and you learn more about her origin, which is cool, and they help to establish her as a character again for Marvel going forward. But when it ends, it just kind of ends, and you're not really sure what's next, or if you're ready for what's next, or what they're going to do. But with so much fan service, it's hard not to like it. I mean, who doesn't want to learn more about Black Widow and the Winter Soldier's romance? Like, bring that back. That page, the full page splash of them, oh goodness, that was amazing. But there are a lot of moments like that where you look back and you're like, yeah, I know it was a great time. And it helps to not nitpick it so much, because you can, and you may not like it so much then, but just enjoy it. It's only 5 issues. It's a quick read. Definitely worth your money. That's it.
Cool. Well, Mike, what did you think about Web of Black Widow?
I had this on my pull just to kind of make sure I got some copies. I really didn't get into it until about issue 3, but it was good. I think it's action packed from pretty much 1 through 5 and cover to cover. But as Nick said, you can nitpick it. Each issue you could really nitpick it and kind of dissect it. But comics are fun, and this was a fun 5 issues. I think if this was an ongoing series, then we would have much more to say about it. Excuse me. But as of right now, I think I'm a fan of Jodie Houser. I think she really dug into the character of Black Widow. I think at about middle way through the series, you really were on board with her revenge tour, and just kind of really backing her up, especially when Anya got thrown in and just all the Red Room shenanigans that were going around. And it was fun. I will say that the writing for me was probably the standout on this series. I'm not a huge fan of the art. I'm not saying that was bad. It's just not really my style. But yeah, I think this is good. I think you can really introduce Black Widow to somebody in this series without really going through like Secret Empire, or maybe let them know about Tales of Suspense, but it's really not necessary, because I really think Jodie Houser kind of does a good job of telling the story and getting the Widow's memories back, and just kind of just developing that character, especially in her interactions with Iron Man, and towards the end where you feel her, maybe pain is not the right word, but where she almost kind of had to ask for help, and you just kind of felt like, yeah, okay, I can dig that, type of deal. But yeah, it was a good series. I think it's a fun series, not to be taken too seriously. I think this is the perfect type of limited series. Like I said, if this was kind of maybe contradicting myself, but like I said, if this was an ongoing series, I think it would be different. But limited series, I think this is what you want in a limited series from a character like Black Widow. Good story, decent art, overall fun, captured well. You can get behind the characters, and at the end of the day, you just have 5 issues. Not a huge deal, but overall for me, yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's the run of the mill. I think like Nick said, you definitely had some fan service, right? Who doesn't love Clint and Iron Man coming into for a couple panels? But yeah, overall fun. Definitely recommended. Matt, what do you think?
Man, I thought it was fine. I did not regret reading it by any stretch of the imagination. I will say this, though. I feel like writers have gotten into a little bit of a rut with Black Widow, in that all of her stories seem to revolve around some facet of her past when she was a Russian spy coming back to bite her in the ass. Again, I'd like to see something new done with this character. This was a fine miniseries. I feel like if you were wanting to give someone a primer on who the Black Widow is and kind of what her world looks like, this would be a great miniseries to pan them to. And again, I enjoyed it. I didn't regret reading it by any stretch of the imagination. Nick, you used the word wonky to describe some of the art. I definitely agree with that. It wasn't bad. It just a little rough around the edges in places. That's all, And I'm not a professional comic book artist. I'm not going to sit here and call anybody out about that. But so it goes. It was enjoyable. I did have to do a little bit of homework figuring out when they brought Black Widow back. I didn't know that. Maybe a recap page at the beginning would have, maybe the first issue, throwing that out there, would have been appreciated, because this is a character that has had a lot of stuff happen in the last few years to her. Yeah. I mean, we all pretty much all of us were we remember she was killed, but the resurrection part of it was not so much ballyhooed and advertised. So, there's that. I love seeing Winter Soldier pop up. That made me want to go pull out Ed Brubaker's Winter Soldier and reread that for the umpteenth time, which she was an integral part of. And, considering Natasha's got her own movie coming out here pretty quick in a few months, this was a well-timed miniseries. Marvel knows what they're doing in terms of marketing and branding, and this sort of thing creates a good awareness of the character. And I won't be surprised if we see another miniseries or another, other flurry of one-shots between now and her movie's release.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents. Guys, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, like to that point, to the movie coming out, in the introduction page to the Web of Black Widow in every issue, it uses the line from the first Avengers movie that Loki says to her that she still has red in her ledger.
Yes, I caught that.
Yeah, wasn't that interesting? I thought that was such an iconic line that it's now ingrained into the comics for this character. And that kind of has defined, I think, something towards Matt's complaint about all of these stories being about her past coming back to haunt her, that she has red in her ledger, and it's, you still have to confront that and deal with it. Yeah. And it's become such a fundamental part of the character that I thought it was just so interesting that, that's who she is now going forward. And they're really trying to establish that, bringing in a lot of these familiar faces in the series. And there's just a lot of familiarity with it. And it's right in line with Marvel's branding for the new movie coming out.
And hey, I mean, there's no knock on the writing here whatsoever. Jodie Houser, I loved her on Mother Night over at DC Young Animal. She was great on that. Fantastic little niche series. And I got to say, the when the boom gets lowered in issue 5 and the trap is sprung and everything comes to a head in a neat M. Night Shyamalan twisty way that doesn't feel cheap, or about trees, it worked. Like you could just really feel the gravity of that scene shift, and that says a hell of a lot about Jodie Houser as a writer, because the scene just felt so cinematic in its execution, and a lot of writers cannot pull that off on page. So hats off to Jodie Houser for that.
Absolutely.
Very cool stuff. I would love to get a Black Widow monthly with her writing it. Absolutely.
And the way this one ends, could very much be possible. It was almost structured. Like, it felt like it was just leading into a new arc,
So, hell yeah. Web of Black Widow. Go buy it. Check it out. Well, all right. We are leading up to the big daddy for the week. Thor #1, courtesy of writer Donny Cates and artist Nick Klein. The War of the Realms is over. Odin has abdicated the throne, and Thor, Odin's son, now sits in his place. He has remade Asgard in his peace throughout the realms. He has got a really cool goat kind of helmet thing going on. It is the beginning of a new era after 7 years of Jason Aaron shenanigans. And this comic does not shy away from going big in its opening salvo. Mighty Mike, what do you think?
First of all, I know I'm supposed to start off with, saying, Donny Cates is a great writer, in which he is, but I would be remiss without saying, starting off my review without talking about Nick Klein and Matthew Wilson with the art and the colors of this book. Holy cow. Obviously, Donny Cates. We're not going to talk about Donny Cates. We're just going to skip over Donny Cates. We get it. We understand it. He is, gotcha, Donny Cates. But no, really, this was a great.
He's the guy.
Yeah, absolutely is. This was a great first issue on a series leading off from what Jason Aaron has done on a remarkable run of Thor. And the acorns on Donny Cates for writing this book and pretty much ending it how he did. I'm gonna say, like, it's been out for, so spoiler alert, having, the Surfer come in and Galactus crashing in, and now he is the Herald of Thunder and he is under the service of Galactus, is how do you follow that up? I mean, issue 2 of this is going to be kind of meh, right? But what I really enjoy is Cates' take on his humor, where Iron Man is writing, enjoy your retirement on Mjolnir and stuff, and sending it back, and Thor's like, oh, did you see it stretched over 7 continents, and it was just that humor, the familiarity of Donny Cates and what he brings and what he is going to bring to Thor. But best of all is you really felt the stress and the humbleness of Thor as this book continued. Mjolnir is getting heavier. Loki notices it. Thor's like, oh no, it's fine. But the internal struggle, you feel that. And that comes through with Wilson's colors and Klein's art. Like, this creative team is going to be huge. Like, I really think this Thor series is going to be a series to be reckoned with going throughout the year. I know that, Jason Aaron has, a phenomenal Thor run. We all know that, obviously. But talk about a first issue. I mean, like I said, before the acorns on Cates to make Thor a herald of Galactus, come on. Like, who saw that coming? But, this is going to be good. I think it's everything you want in a first issue. It's everything you want from a writer taking over a book from somebody that has been on a book for almost a decade. And you almost, Donny Cates almost had to do something like this, like to bring in Galactus and bring in the Surfer and make him a herald. I'm kind of like repeating myself, but Cates had to do this because, like I said, Aaron spent years, almost a decade of writing I don't want to say a perfect Thor, but something that's going to be, years from now, people are going to look back on Aaron's Thor run and go, this was Thor, this is Thor. And what is Donny Cates going to do? And so he had no choice but to go big. I think this was a perfect first issue. And I would be shocked at any Thor fan, any comic fan, with this creative team that had something super negative to say about this book. I mean, this a brilliant first issue. It had everything. I mean, it had stress. It had it had heroes. It had feel good parts. It made you feel sorry for Thor because he was he's struggling. He doesn't want, and of course, he's not going to say, oh, I'm feeling the weight of Mjolnir in front of Loki. Absolutely, he's not going to say that. He's going to be like, yeah, whatever, dude, and just go on. But this, like I said, this was probably going to. I'm going to go. I know it's January 2nd of the new year, but I'm going to go ahead and call this probably the best first issue of the year, unless something comes up from like Dark Horse or Image, because Marvel and DC is going to restart something by April, so they're going to retcon something by April, so it doesn't matter. But unless something comes along and really dethrones Thor 1, this is probably going to be the big series of the year. Cates, Wilson, Klein, big team, big book, big series. I think this is going to be huge for the year. I think this is going to be probably a series of the year easily.
There's 51 more Wednesdays this year, so bring it on.
I will, and you know what? I will earmark this show, and please, everyone that watches it and tweets it out, follow me on Twitter. I'm on Facebook and everything. I mean, we will follow the year with this, but I really do think Donny Cates' Thor is going to be something that is going to be huge throughout the year. And we're definitely not done talking about Donny Cates' Thor.
God, I hope not. I just, before I go to you real quick, Nick, I do want to give a shout out to the coloring, like to follow up on something you said. That effect of the rainbow following Mjolnir as it ventures through the realms, brilliant,
marvelous. Marvelous.
Oh yeah, totally brilliant. All like just little nuances throughout the book like that just crush it. And I mean, we don't talk about colorists enough on this show. Shame on us.
Yeah.
But damn, the coloring in this book is beautiful. Nick, what on earth did you think about the book as a whole?
Yeah, so where's B at? Our former host guest who always loved the colors in our books. So this one I really thought of him. But I finished this book and I couldn't help but think this feels more like Donny Cates weaving the Thor character in his pre-existing narrative that's been overarching through a lot of other characters that he's written. He's had a lot of leeway with Marvel lately, with Silver Surfer and the whole Punisher character that's been introduced, the Cosmic Punisher. And,
you mean Cosmic Ghost Rider?
Or Cosmic Ghost Rider, yeah, sorry. Like, that character, there's been a lot of these that he's gotten to play with that helped build his reputation at Marvel and worked his way up to a character like Thor. And then we see a lot of these stories coming to head and weaving into his Thor story. And I thought, I get it. That's something that people who aren't totally sold on Donny Cates often complain about. If you're not a follower of his writing, you might not get everything with his series because he ties in a lot of different stuff that he's worked on into this story. And I like it because I do follow his stuff, but I almost get tired of it because I just wanted a good Thor story. But I think Mike touched on a good point. After Jason Aaron, who has such an iconic and fundamental Thor run, how do you recreate that? You don't. You can't take Thor back to his basics at a time like this.
Yeah.
After Jason Aaron's run. You can't. So you go in this wild Donny Cates direction that has him as the Herald of Thunder, and you get to see a bunch of his other characters coming in. And it's fan service, but I don't know if it's going to set up a run that Jason Aaron just got off of. It might with Nick Klein's artwork. Goodness, that artwork is just going to be spectacular no matter what. And proof of that is the previous Deadpool run that I had no intention or want to end. It was from Scotty Young, and it was right after one of the longest Deadpool runs came Scotty Young and Nick Klein for a brief 12-issue run that was suspiciously canceled really quickly. And it seems like that run ended so that Nick Klein could get to work on Thor.
I wonder why.
Yep. So, then you got Kelly Thompson's new Deadpool coming out, and the spectacularly illustrated and colored by Matthew Wilson Thor #1 issue that honestly, without those visuals, I don't think the story holds up nearly as well. Those nuances that you were talking about with the rainbow following the Mjolnir and all of the different character expressions and background work and all these different things that play into the story help tell this story in a way that I'm not so sure Donny Cates could have done by himself. So you got a lot of Donny Cates fan service, some spectacular artwork, and this wild new direction for Thor that I'm not 100% sold on. And that's ultimately what we get out of this issue. So it's exciting for, something fresh because we've had so much of Jason Aaron's Thor. but visuals alone are not going to book every single issue. And I reviewed 12 issues of Deadpool's run with Nick Klein and Scotty Young, and Scotty Young was in and out on that book with the writing and the storytelling. Nick Klein pulled through on the artwork every time, but it didn't make that series, what it could be. So I'm hoping that Donny Cates pulls through and is able to focus his storytelling on Thor and build on that character rather than using that as a character to advance his overall plot with these other characters that he's been allowed to play with at Marvel. But we'll see. And issue 1's not enough to tell on that. It's exciting and it's new and it's super colorful, but I don't know if it's going to hold up as well. And I'm curious to see. Matt, what do you think?
Wow. I'm gonna build on a little bit of what you said, because I totally enjoyed this issue up to a point, and then it took a turn that I feel did not serve it well. So at the beginning of the book, we're getting to know the lay of the land. We're getting what the world looks like now that Thor is sitting on the throne. He's literally remade the throne out of the world tree, which is awesome. All this table setting. This is the state of things now, and there's that really meaningful, loaded moment where Mjolnir is heavier and he doesn't know why, and it's the weight of the throne. The weight of his responsibility is heavier. So, it's a great metaphor. And he has that moment with Loki where he tells him he has to kneel, and all of this new turning the corner or kingly stuff. I don't get to go run around and be Thor and smash trolls anymore. Thor relearning who he is as he learns his new responsibilities. That's the story I want. And that's the story I got for about half the issue. And then Galactus crashes the party, literally crashes the party. And everything takes a huge, huge, huge left turn. Now, I'm not going to say that this ruined the comic by any stretch of the imagination, but it did change what the story was about. It gave short shrift to the themes that the story was opening with. And suddenly we've got to go fight yet another end of the world scenario. We just had the War of the Realms, this huge, epic, years in the making Thor story. Do we really need, right out of the gate, to jump into the end of all there is? I don't think so. I don't. If you want to build to that, cool. That's fine. But right out of the gate, as your opening statement, go big or go home. No, man, you were doing it right. You were doing it right the first time. I want to know about Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Let's have that story, before we leap into, well, now there's Galactus, and because I'm mostly interested in reading about Thor adjusting to his new role. So immediately after all that setup, just discarding it to have him turned into Galactus's latest herald, I don't know. I don't get it. I feel like it was done for shock value more than anything else, and to give him a pretty little headband. I didn't dislike this issue, but I don't like the turn that it took. I feel like the stronger thematic elements were simply given short shrift by the need to go big and to shock us. Donny Cates' book has to relate to the others. But it's job security. I mean, the fact that I don't know why Silver Surfer is Black Surfer now, for lack of a better term, didn't negate the fact that, he still had his role to play in the story. So it goes. I definitely look forward to number 2. I think that it's off to a strong start, but don't Donny Cates. And for that matter, I will be very happy and surprised to see if he's on this book more than 12 issues, because he hasn't stayed on anything other than Venom for more than 12 issues. And that in and of itself just really grates me. It makes it feel more like he's a mercenary than a crafter of stories. So, that's me. He is a good writer, but,
That was a bomb.
Right? I wasn't ready for that one. I was like, I need to take a couple minutes to give myself a timeout here for a second.
It's not that he's a bad writer by any means, but dude, show me you've got the chops for some longevity. Like his Guardians of the Galaxy run, which just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, it acted as though it was going to be a good long run, and then all of a sudden it was, he's writing Thor now. Done. Sucked. There was just no effort put into that last issue that he wrote. None. Everything wrapped up as easy as could be.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Donny Cates, he is definitely using Marvel as his golden corral, where he is just going from, just buffet table to buffet table to buffet table, and like you said, he's only staying for 12 or so issues. But I mean, that being said, I hope he does stay on for Thor, because and this could maybe a slight bias with Silver Surfer, I don't know, but seeing seeing Norrin Rad with Thor, it'd be kind of cool. But I hope he does stay with Thor, with a little, to give a little more meat to the story and stuff like that, because as much as I do like Surfer and Galactus and stuff like that, I was a little, I don't want to say maybe taken aback, but I was like, oh yeah, great, we're seeing into his psyche, and we're kind of seeing, like you said, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Oh, Galactus has crashed onto the world, and here comes Norrin Rad, and I'm like, yay! But I'm like, okay, let's put the fanboy aside a little bit, and what just happened to Thor #1? You know what I'm saying? As much as I love it just I was just kind of like, what just happened? It was like, like a punch, kind of, not a huge punch in the face, but I was just kind of like, did we just do like an all stop and turn right? Did we miss our exit?
I think that's a great way to explain Donny Cates' storytelling approach, though. He gives you this awesome fundamental take on the character to show that he understands the character and he knows the core of him and where he's coming from, and then goes in a totally different direction than what you would think.
Yeah.
And keeps you on your toes while creating job security with the introduction of all the other characters he gets to play with.
Yeah.
And there you have a classic Donny Cates story made beautiful with some awesome artwork. So I think
really awesome.
To his credit, Cates has done a lot of good with Marvel. Death of the Inhumans was a tough task that had to be pulled off that I'm sure Marvel threw his way. There are a lot of these series that he's kind of helped up their game for Marvel and helped establish them and pivot them to new positions in the Marvel universe and set them up for new creative teams, while he gets to do the ongoing Venom epic that he's probably hedging his legacy right now on. It seems like that's the one that he's wanting to stay on.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time, I guess, before we see the god Null show up in Thor. Like, somehow that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Are you saying that Mr. Cates brings, the god in all of his books? I mean, how dare you say that?
Like, I was kind of one of the first.
No reason to think that. That's crazy talk. Because you're crazy.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I thought I was in the later time zone. Like, oh, come on, take a nap or something. What are you doing?
Oh man, but I mean, overall, damn solid book. You know,
definitely.
A lot of my complaints, they're not fundamental flaws or anything like that. This I would highly recommend this to anybody looking to get into Thor.
Yeah.
Arnon? All right. Well, I think unless you guys have some final thoughts, that wraps our reviews for the week. Um, let's move on. Let's get on with this show. So, Nick, what have you been reading? What are you looking forward to?
Let's see. I'm gonna keep it Marvel since that's been the theme so far. Um, Marvel's been doing some cool stuff. They've got, I think my favorites still are the Magnificent Miss Marvel and Miles Morales Spider-Man, both from Saladin Ahmed, who I think is a crazy, criminally underrated writer who should get as much work as Donny Cates, because no matter what you throw at him, he handles it amazingly. These stories are ongoings. He's not. I don't think he's doing what. I don't think Donny Cates is doing what Ahmed is doing, because he's got multiple ongoing series that are just it. And Miles Morales Spider-Man just introduced the new Morales. It's a little baby that's coming into the family.
Oh, he's
Super
got a
cool
little
stuff.
sibling? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so like it's gonna be cool to see Miles, take the role of that bigger brother and see how those dynamics go into the story, because a lot of his storytelling is firstly a drama and then a superhero story. So
Mm.
you get a lot of the heart in every issue. It's got a lot of drama and interpersonal relationship exploration, and then you get some superhero like punch 'em up baddie stuff. And I thought like the newest arc from Miles Morales Spider-Man is tying into Bendis's run and how they brought him over from the Ultimates universe. So fans are kind of,
Really?
yeah. So you've got the old Green Goblin coming back, Ultimatum, and a lot of these players are coming in that we really haven't seen since the Ultimate Universe and 616 clashed in Secret Wars. So it's cool to see these characters get played with again, pretty much coming out of the toy box, and it's just exciting. But I think we spoke about it earlier, or I did. For what I'm looking forward to, Deadpool #2 is coming out, and that's from Kelly Thompson, who is also tasked with a lot right now doing Captain Marvel, which is another fantastic series from Marvel that people don't talk about. Deadpool #1 brought in Elsa Bloodstone, turned Deadpool into like this demon hunter, monster slayer, and it was just super cool stuff. Like it was a great take on it. Though I thought it was a missed opportunity with the whole reboot of X going on, the Dawn of X. Like how do you not have Deadpool going to Krakoa somehow, the second one who can't enter Krakoa. But great stuff that you definitely want to look out for. Um, Marvel's X is coming out. It's a big week for that. And Kelly Thompson's got star #1 that I think a lot of people are going to sleep on. And they really shouldn't. Because this character is spinning out of the Captain Marvel arc that she's working on. And Star was actually the villain of the last arc, supposedly. And I guess her popularity in that arc allowed Marvel to do a spin-off of this one. So she's getting her own #1. It's a brand new character pretty much for Marvel, and her powers were siphoned off of Captain Marvel. Anybody who knows about the
Oh.
relationship with Rogue and Captain Marvel knows that's some traumatic territory for Carol. So it's really, really great stuff that touches into the core of this character, and to see her get life in her own series, no, it kind of tells me that she's going to keep interacting with Captain Marvel, and we're going to see this relationship continue. So really cool stuff. Marvel's got some cool stuff going on. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Sweet. Mike, how about you? What have you been reading? What are you looking forward to?
Reading of course, Venom 21, Venom Island just started. I and for the first time in a very long time, I was kind of it's a subpar issue, coming from Donny Cates and the creative team from Venom. I don't know. I've read it like 3-4 times. I just feel like we're trying to rehatch Spider Island, all over
Mm.
again. I'm kind of like and I really have nitpicked that issue, and I'm just kind of like I don't want it to be this, because we've just,
Mm-mm.
it's the first issue in a very long time where we have abandoned everything, Sleeper and Dylan and excuse me, and it just seems like, you opened it up and you're like Dylan, Dylan, Dylan. and all of a sudden you realize that Eddie has not only the Venom symbiote but the Carnage symbiote in him, and he is now on the island, and that's how kind of the book ends. And I was just left with like, and we've read this, like maybe this is just because he spent so much time with Absolute Carnage and trying to weave in the story of Dylan and the Sleeper and Dylan and Eddie and all that stuff. So maybe this was just kind of him, kind of, okay, well, I have Thor, doing Thor things, so let me just kind of put some stuff with Venom and kind of just But overall, I mean, hell, pardon my French, but I've been reading Venom since I was a teenager, so I'm not going to stop reading Venom comics. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just put that in the box, and we'll just wait till issue 22 comes in, and we'll just see how that goes. Okay. Looking forward to obviously, for anyone that's watched the show knows that I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan. So we got 101 coming up that I am really eager to get into. Sophie Campbell's taking over. As City of War is over with, Master Splinter is no longer here. What happens now? It kind of, so there's just, my expectations for Ninja Turtles 101 is probably so huge, and out of the universe, I don't even know what I'm expecting. It's one of those issues where I'm definitely going in on Wednesday after work. Traffic be damned, pardon my language, but it's after work, I'll get dinner later. But yeah, Ninja Turtles 101 is definitely what I'm looking forward to. And here lately, with the holidays just getting over with, we go to the in-laws, usually take some books or take some collected works with me and stuff like that. But here recently, I've been getting into some early, some mid 400s Batman. So now we are reading 10 Nights of the Beast, which ironically was about the second comic run, sans the Punisher limited run that I got into that really got me into comics. So I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. I had no idea about the KG Beast and what the political slant was on this book. I just knew it was Batman. I had to read it. And obviously, as you grow older, you read this stuff, and you're like, oh, I get what Starlin now was trying to say. Yeah, I got it. But more importantly, this was a great time for Batman, because it's like, it's right after year one, it's right before Death in the Family. So that era, that mid 400 arc of Batman is just marvelous. And kind of when I was taking some stuff for the in-laws house, I was like, wait a second, and I was just flipping through some stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't seen this stuff in a very long time. So, but yeah, definitely check out 10 Nights of the Beast if you want some decent Batman stuff, and maybe the political, message has some stuff. I don't know. This isn't that, we don't talk politics on the show, but maybe you read it and get back with me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on MySpace. Check me out. But anyway, Matt, what have you been reading?
I have been reading lots and lots of cable comics from the 90s. I got a stack of them cheap. It's been awesome. Very 90s-tastic. You got Fabian Nicieza writing the hell out of the character. He's the one that gave the comic, the character life in the first place. And really fleshed the character. Well, not life, I should say, but really fleshed the character out and made him more three-dimensional. So, that's been fun. And then his run leads into Jeff Lieb's run, who did some really fun stuff as well. So yeah, that's just been a great little trip down memory lane for me. What am I looking forward to? Man, we got Batman 86 coming up this week. James Tynion IV making his big debut. For those of you who have maybe been a little fatigued with the creative team or the writing team aspect of it, I should say, for the previous 85 issues, wait is over. It is go time. Now, look. I'm not trying to turn this into a big anti-Tom King rant, but we all know some people have strong feelings about Tom King. I'm kind of on the fence, depending on the issue. But yeah, I couldn't look more forward to this. You know, it's been a little while since the core Batman titles have been just like, go time. So yeah, super psyched about it. Man, other than that, I don't know what else is coming out that's really big, but it's I'm looking forward to it, well, no matter what. So heck yeah. Oh, you know, we did have last week Criminal shipped on Christmas Day, so I need to go back and pick that up. Totally
Yeah.
missed that book. But gentlemen, I think we are at a wrap. That's it for the week. And I look forward to doing this with you again next week. This has been episode 60 of the Comic Watchers Show. Comic Watchers Show is a part of Comic Dash. It was written by fans for fans. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.